has been opened on the northeast side of the collapsed Key Bridge.
They cut up and lifted a piece of the north section of the Key Bridge. The entire operation took 10 hours. And in that time, they were able to cut and lift a 200-ton span of the bridge.
Multiple cranes and tugboats are part of the salvage operation aimed at reopening the port of Baltimore as quickly as possible after a cargo ship hit the bridge last week. This as the investigation continues, along with the recovery of 4 construction workers' bodies still missing. President Biden plans to visit Baltimore on Friday to see the damage firsthand and meet with state and local officials. Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard now says 7 of its members, including 2 generals, were killed in an airstrike in Syria's capital, Damascus, where Iran's consulate was hit. State media reports in Iran and Syria blame Israel, which has not commented.
This strike took place in a building just next to the Iranian embassy in the capital of Syria. This has raised questions about the IRGC activities in Syria and questions about what the response will be from Iran. There have already been a number of threats thrown out today by the regime in Tehran, with Iran's ambassador to Syria saying the response will be swift, direct, and harsh.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. One of the generals killed was believed to be facilitating weapons shipments to Iran proxy groups in the region. Just getting word that the last living survivor of the USS Arizona has died. Luke Conter was 102. He was a quartermaster standing on the main deck of that battleship when Japanese planes attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941. A mixed finish on Wall Street. The Dow down 240 points at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
The FBI investigating why a car rammed a gate at the FBI office outside Atlanta earlier today. The driver is in custody, being evaluated at a hospital for possible injuries.
The FBI has 56 field offices nationwide. This is one of them. It's where they carry out investigations, assess local and regional crime threats.
Fox's Madison Scarpino. Officials say the suspect tried to enter the building. There's no word on his identity or motive. Federal prosecutors in Texas unseal trafficking charges against a Mexican drug cartel.
U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, Alamdar Hamdani, announced the indictment against the Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
A 50-count indictment charging 41 people of drug trafficking in cocaine, heroin, meth, and fentanyl, as well as money laundering.
Authorities seized over 200 kilograms of coke, 500 kilos of meth, and over 22,000 pills laced with fentanyl, leading Daniel Como of the DEA to say,
by these individuals being arrested, the drugs being taken off the street, we have saved lives.
The indictment was the result of a more than 5-year investigation known as Operation Rainmaker.
Fox's Kevin Uretsky. The NCAA says one of the 3-point lines on the court used for the women's basketball regionals at Moda Center in Portland, Oregon, was 9 inches short of regulation, a mistake made by the contractor that makes the courts used throughout March Madness. 4 games had already been played over 2 days with the mismatched 3-point lines. The discrepancy was discovered yesterday when Texas and North Carolina State, their coaches, agreed to play their Elite 8 game anyway, determining a spot in the Final Four. Again, on Wall Street, stocks finished mixed. The Dow with a sell-off, but the NASDAQ up 17. Elisa Brady, Fox News.
Logan, everyone, let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign and Ben Nevis, Saturday active and moisture-laden with wide swings of weather and temperatures and seasons this week, and we'll do it all over again next week. Matter of fact, there are some indications of an almost early summer feel later next week and beyond. In the meantime, cloudy, mild for the day today. Temperatures to about 65, but in a range from north to south out of Champaign County, and maybe a stray shower this morning. Showers and thunderstorms will get it going this afternoon, and periods of rain continue tonight. Maybe a thunderstorm at a low down to 52. Northeast to north winds pick up for the day tomorrow, 53 in the morning, and falling temperatures. Showers, maybe a thunderstorm mainly for the morning hours. A little rain and some snow mixed for tomorrow night after midnight, low down to 35. And for the day on Wednesday, cloudy, windy, cold, a few showers of snow and rain, maybe even a small accumulation of colder surfaces, a high later in the day at 45. 40s on Thursday, 50s Friday and Saturday, into the 60s on Sunday. Thunderstorms are back in late in the weekend, early next week as well. For TVGA Broadcasting, Eddie Rochas, Greg Solier.
I didn't expect that. Tons of credit to UConn. I thought that we were in a good spot at half, especially after the slow start. I thought Klangen dominated the first half with his defensive abilities. We obviously came out in the second half and got blitzed. Got some decent looks. Kind of felt like we were doing some of the things we've always done, but Donovan made good blocks, and then they do what they do. They got out in transition, turned some of those blocks, turned a few turnovers into layups, but give them credit. I stink at these end of the season deals. 29 wins, Big Ten championship, Elite Eight. I don't want one person in this program that's had anything to do with our men's basketball program to remember about this game. What an incredible season. They took a coach on a ride that was so fun. It's the funnest group of guys I've ever been around to coach in terms of enjoyment, the professionalism, their achievement. It's very hard to win 29 games in college basketball. This team did that, playing the schedule that we played. Today wasn't our day. We're a game short of the Final Four, but getting to the Elite Eight, not something that we're going to just forget about and blow off. That's quite a successful season. Coleman's been with us 4 years. What an unbelievable season that he's had, and an unbelievable career. Marcus has been with us a year, so we've got the gamut. The guy that's been with us 4, the guy that's been with us 1. Both of them all-league players. Both of them as good a people as they are players. Marcus came in and was everything and more that we thought he would be when he transferred in. The same from Quincy, the same from Justin, and obviously Terrence, being a part of that. Our young guys I feel great about. But great season, tough ending. Man, I'm so blessed. I'm truly blessed that I got to coach this group. And today wasn't what any of us expected. But that being said, I might be the most blessed person in college basketball today.
Well, I'm back, and you know what that means.
Who's that? Kyle?
It's the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Lante, Kyle Tosk. You didn't hear from me for a while, which means it was a good March for Illinois. Nice postseason run. Me being back doesn't mean it's over, and Illinois is done after the Elite Eight.
Boo.
Nothing to hang your head about. Ugly game, ugly way to finish it against UConn, but
you're the target of hatred now.
That's fine.
Because you're
no one
back.
wants to see me, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Because they know what that means.
Yep. I did appreciate you joining us as much as you did.
No doubt.
Because I have...
Happy to do it.
While I didn't, I haven't learned lately what it takes, and you do a lot of stuff. But when I worked in television and was on those trips, you'd think you have all the time in the world just to go see sites and everything, but they keep you busy.
It was busy.
They
busy
keep you
trip.
busy,
we churned out a lot of content.
Yes,
Proud of
you
what we
guys
did
did.
at Illini Inquirer. It was a fun ride, though. Couldn't be more thankful of that team allowing us to follow them from Minneapolis all the way through to the title game, obviously, then to hit Omaha and then to Boston. Just to be in Boston and know what that stage was.
Yes.
Was a big deal. I know it ended poorly against UConn, and you would have liked to have been more competitive in that game, had a shot down the stretch, but doesn't take away from Illinois being back in that realm for the first time in forever. And I'm thoroughly appreciative that I got to be there and would have been okay with the trip to Phoenix. My wife would have killed me. And it would pull out. Joey Wagner said, and we got time to get into my own travels and
I want to hear
experiences and all that stuff. He's like, if I have to see your son at the doorstep, wave you goodbye one more time as I back out of the driveway.
Wow.
He's like, I'm just going to push you out and say, you can't come. So we don't have to do that for Phoenix. I'm here to stay. And the off season is off and running because we already got happenings there, which we'll touch on as we go along. But we should probably start Illinois 77-52 there on Saturday against the UConn Huskies.
I heard the other day Nellie's starting kindergarten.
Yeah, right?
That's how long you've been
She's
gone.
She's grown. She's taller. I was like, oh, my God.
She's like, who's
I feel
that,
like I haven't
Mom?
seen you in a month. Somebody had this. It's a stat here. They have media stat. We haven't been, but I think 2 full days at home in the last 16.
Is that right?
So I think my wife was keeping that stat.
Okay.
She's probably the ESPN stats and info. You had the Donovan Clingan, Illinois 0 for 19 challenging Clingan. And then also
she's got a burner account.
Yeah. Illinois media have been home for 2 full days in the last 2.5 weeks.
I love it. Well,
there you have it.
I'll say this. I have been pretty vocal with you guys that this team was good enough to get past the Sweet 16. I didn't want to just update that stat. I didn't want to just say, well, boy, that team got to the Sweet 16. That's great. And, I'm happy with them, and we had a good time, and they updated the stat and everything. No, this team had an All-American on it. It had Marcus Damask, who was the first-team All-Big Ten. We know that Shannon is the All-American and the first-team All-Big Ten. You had Coleman Hawkins, who's in year 4 of a productive career at the University of Illinois. You've got plenty of different weapons with Danger and Guerrier and Luke and all, just keep going down the list. This team was good enough to be an Elite 8 team, at least. Now, I think the only reason they're not a Final Four team is because of who they ran into. And I'm not sure any of these other teams, and I'm talking the other 6 teams in the Elite 8, not counting UConn and Illinois, I'm not sure that they're all not in the same position Illinois is in today if they're running into UConn. Now, we'll see. Purdue obviously has what it takes to battle Clingan and that team, but UConn just has everything. They've got the height, and they've got certainly the talent. They've got the young man that's going to be probably a lottery pick who's a freshman who is really good on defense. They're just athletic. And so I say this, and I say I'm glad that Illinois got to that Elite 8. That win over Iowa State validated this entire season. It was your first probably high major quality win, which is ironic.
Yep.
But it validated this season, and it puts these guys now in a spectrum with a few teams, right? They are elevated up to this part where we put other Illinois teams, and congrats to them for doing it, because I thought, don't let it end at Sweet 16. At least get to the Elite 8. They did. I'm proud as hell about this season and this team. And yeah, it was a clunker. I mean, it was 23 all, guys, and then it was 53-23. And I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Oof.
That said, I think the stink of that game eventually, I hope, wears off.
I think so, yeah.
I do too. I mean,
especially if UConn wins the title.
Yes,
and
good call.
If they blow out Alabama, as I think a lot of people would expect, if they score up with Purdue, and that could be a close game, and I'm not saying UConn would be an automatic to win, but if UConn is the eventual national champions back-to-back, and Illinois gets smoked by them, I think that takes away some of the sting. Of course, just in general, no matter what UConn does from here on out, Illinois is still a team that reached the Elite 8, that won the Big Ten tournament, that won 14 games in conference play and had a tremendous season. It was just a tough way to see such a likable team, such a really good team, not play their best basketball on that day.
Yeah, it's almost like on the national stage, everybody is like, oh, well, you beat Iowa State, and like, well, this Illinois team, man, they're like number 1 or 2 in offensive efficiency. Mm-hmm. This is a pretty stinking good team. And I'm not talking guys that cover the sport. I'm talking those random national guys that, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, hold on. They just got beat by 30, or 25. Never mind. UConn's that good, or Illinois is not that good. That's kind of the way I feel, but I don't think that'll be the case. Do they hang Elite 8 banners?
I was having the same conversation with Joey and Jeremy. I admit, got to the point of like convincing myself that they would, but then I went and looked it up, and I don't think that they do.
I don't think they do. I heard you say it on your podcast, and I sat there for a minute. I know they've got the Final Four.
Yes, the Final Four.
All of those.
Yep.
I know they have all of those, but I don't think I've ever seen like a 1984 or any, the 01 team. I don't think I've ever seen anything hanging for an Elite Eight.
I do so on the women's side, because I was Googling this on the drive home, and there is an Illinois banner that says Sweet 16, and then there are a couple of dates under it. Now, it was like 1998, so I was like, it was like 97, 98 is the last times, and I'm guessing that was the women's side. I don't know if the men's side has like an Elite Eight, 01, 05.
I think they should.
84, 89.
Is that,
there's only 5 of them.
I know.
Since they expanded the tournament to 32.
Is that a laughable thing?
No.
Like, would another college that's like Michigan State, who's won a couple of national titles, would they sit there and say, you guys have an Elite Eight banner? Hell, we made that 20 straight years.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm fine with no Elite Eight banner.
I'd be fine with it or fine without it. I wouldn't argue it either way. I know Indiana would probably have something to say with their banners, but then again, the last Elite Eight they could put up there was 2002, I think.
Probably.
It was. Like they went to the national title game in 2002, lost to Maryland. That was the last time Indiana was in the Elite Eight.
Wow.
So maybe over the course of the 80s and into the 90s, some programs like that one. Michigan State, I'm sure, has been to a bunch of Elite Eights because we know Izzo's had just a laundry list of Final Fours as well. So I get it, though. I don't think you need to have, like, the absence of a Elite Eight banner for that 2001 squad isn't taking it out of our minds that team went to the Elite Eight. Like, we're not going to forget it.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
Same thing with 84.
Yeah. I mean, I know Sweet 16 has a cool sound to it. And I think for most programs, it validates their season. You made the Sweet 16. And there's programs like, let me throw out like an SIU. You make the Sweet 16 at Southern, and that's like making the Final Four or winning a national title. I mean, you're probably theoretically not getting much further past the Sweet 16. For a UConn, a Sweet 16 is just like, oh, we've won 2 games. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And I think Illinois
now the tournament starts.
Right,
we're in the Sweet 16. Now the tournament starts.
Right. So, and Illinois, you're kind of right in that middle. I mean, you went just 19 years without getting there. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to kind of break through that bubble again. But the Elite Eight just that's pretty solid. You're one of 8 teams remaining.
Right.
Out of 300, 28 or some, whatever the count is.
363
Oh, is it more than that? Yeah, I'm back in the 60s. So, in that sense, that's pretty impressive. But I think it's still all about the Final Four. I've always thought the Final Four was recognized almost as though you won a national title almost. Like you brag so much about, we were a Final Four team, and what, did you win it? You know what I'm saying? I'm not ripping Illinois or anything or anybody like that, but it's like we put so much emphasis on getting to a Final Four, and you should. Because you get one more week of national recognition, but then it's like, well, you still got a couple things you got to get done once you get to the Final Four. But I've always wondered if we put too much emphasis on the Final Four, but probably not. And I don't know that we put enough on the Elite Eight. I think it's funny because I know I saw Kyle shaking his head about the Elite Eight banner. I don't know. I don't know if I would like it or not.
Kyle?
I don't know. I just think when you kind of look at the tournament schedule and just like the accomplishment of a tournament run, I feel like the Elite Eight is kind of like the in-between of like, all right, you made the second weekend.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like if you do Elite Eight banners, you should then do Sweet 16 banners too.
Yeah.
And just if you make the second weekend, do a banner. Otherwise, you have to win the region, go to a Final Four. I don't know. I do
some
think
buildings have more flags than the United Nations.
There's some programs that probably would look at an Elite Eight banner and kind of laugh at it.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. And I think like in Carbondale, they probably have Sweet 16 banners because they've been twice.
Okay, but let me ask you this. I could sit here and argue that an Elite Eight is a bigger accomplishment than a Big Ten tournament title.
Oh, no, I would agree with you. I think it's looked
and you're
at
going to put a Big Ten tournament title banner up there.
That's true.
I would rather, if you give me the choice, would I rather win the Big Ten tournament. Now you get to cut down the nets.
Yeah,
You get to
yeah.
have the trophy. You get to call yourself Big Ten champions.
I know. I always
in a sense. I think that's always a little, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would rather go to an Elite Eight
Ditto.
than win a Big Ten tournament.
Ditto. And you know how much it means to me to get a banner with a Big Ten regular or – now, I think I'd rather win – I don't know. I think I'd almost rather win the regular season Big Ten. I think to me it's about equal with an Elite Eight. But, yeah, just the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, I'm with you. Elite Eight, to me.
Yeah, you could even have a conversation. Would you rather win the Big Ten regular season or go to the Elite Eight? I think that would be a fair –
I think if you told me for the next 10 years Illinois will not win the Big Ten regular season, but they'll be in the Elite Eight 10 times, I would take that in a heartbeat.
All right, what if they won 8 Big Ten titles but didn't go to an Elite Eight? That would sting. That would be –
that would – because your coach would be fired.
Oh, boy.
Somehow.
Well,
yeah, no, these are good questions. Yeah, Brian said winning Big Ten title is beating everyone out. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know. There's not a banner hanging that says we beat Morehead State in round 1, is there?
And then luckily got Duquesne. Not that team was going to beat BYU, I would imagine, the way that they were playing.
Yes.
So,
well, listen, it was a great run.
It was.
It was a great run, and it fell like a thud. And I still, even as good as I think UConn is, I think Illinois puts up a better effort 9 out of 10 times.
I would agree with that.
I think the game plan was flawed.
Oh, yeah.
Terrence Shannon he ran up against guys that are as athletic as him.
Yep.
Sean Harrington getting all sorts of public.
Oh, boy.
national recognition.
Hurley went after him,
oh,
didn't
boy.
he?
If you look at Hurley the wrong way, he'll call it out and say that everyone's against him. So.
That dude's a psycho, but
Big
obviously
time. I'm sure he's
done
mad
a
that it's
phenomenal
in Phoenix.
job there.
I'm sure he's mad that this is an advantage, obviously, to Purdue because they're closer geographically to Phoenix than we are, and everybody hates us. But yeah, I just as good as UConn is, there is no way, as good as Illinois' offense is, second in the country, to go. What did Stevie J say? 50 minutes of actual time without, not basketball time, but 50 minutes of your life. Illinois went without scoring a basket.
Does that include halftime? I'm imagining it probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
late in the first
granted,
half and then 7 to 8 minutes in the second half.
That's crazy.
UConn turned a 12-point lead early in the second half into a 30-point lead in a span of like 4 minutes of game time, which was ridiculous.
I was sitting at a table with 6 guys, 5 guys and a high school kid. The 5 guys drinking beer were just sitting there mesmerized. Like we couldn't even talk. We were just staring at each other. And the high school kid goes, yeah, they just went on a 30-0 run. And I'm like, what? And I looked up. I'm like, hey, we were tied at 23. That's amazing. And I, at the top of my lungs, shouted, I added some, I'm going to make this PG. Quit going at Klingon. Quit it! It's not working.
It was dumb.
Stop!
It was dumb.
And then I was like, get Ty out, and then why start Ty in the second half?
That was questionable at best.
I have loved what Brad Underwood has done with this program. This is not a rip on Brad Underwood, but that is stubborn. Ty Rogers gave you nothing. What was his minus? It had to have been minus like 30.
I think it was minus 13 in 8 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say only because he finally went to the bench.
Minus 30. He was 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds. Yeah.
And I got nothing against Ty.
I like Ty.
I do too.
I'm a fan of Ty Rogers. It's hard to have a non-shooter who's 6'5" in that game, especially when your way to attack Klingon is to pull him away from the basket and you let him sit there. And it's like you didn't have 2 full opportunities against Zach Edey to practice how you were going to attack that type of a team. That's what was really frustrating about it.
That's a great point. Kyler said 1 day of prep for UConn, essentially because of the amount of actions they run. Well, defensively in the first half.
That's the thing, isn't it?
You were good defensively in the first half. You were tied at 23 in that game.
Yeah. UConn scored 28 in the first half, lowest they've had in the tournament the last 2 years.
I mean, you handled their actions early. The majority of their points, correct me if I'm wrong, were in like transition.
Yes.
Because you couldn't make a basket.
Yes.
And you know, I'm not saying Kyler's wrong. He is right. I mean, they run.
They're
we said that
super
going
tough
in.
prep. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't.
That's the problem with it, right? Like,
that's the one negative I'm doing. That's
the defense was good enough to be in the game.
Yep.
And if Illinois made a tweak earlier or even just at the start of halftime, and that Terrence Shannon showed up, he had to show up and make plays. It was going to be tough. You knew that UConn at one point, they were 1 for 11 from 3 in the first half. They were eventually going to start making some shots.
Yes.
And you had to deal with, are you going to double Clingan because him one-on-one against Coleman is just not going to work. But Illinois' defense played well enough up to that point to be in the game, if not leading the game.
Yeah.
Illinois' offense, which has been top-notch all year, was just atrocious.
It really was.
And the game plan didn't pivot soon enough. And obviously, it wasn't just the game plan either. It was like Quincy Guerrier refusing to take a three, instead wanting to attack Clingan, Coleman pump faking. And so it was player execution in addition to some lineup and game plan stuff.
I totally agree with that.
And that's a fair criticism. I think Brad, this is his best coaching job.
Yes.
He did a phenomenal job this year, but that game singularly didn't give Illinois, they weren't given a chance to have a chance because of how they approached that game.
That's a great call. And I get what you said there. That was hard to even say what you said there, but it made sense. The other thing that kind of mesmerized me all season was just letting a big man do what he wanted with Coleman. It's unfair to Coleman that he's playing a 5. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to play a 5. He's a 4 guy.
He will let you know that. Yes.
Yeah, he is a 4 guy. Now, he should be able to hold his own against less than average 5 men in the Big Ten and or non-conference. But to be able to let Clingan just score anytime he wanted, like Julian Reese did, like Zach Edey did, like name another Big Ten, center. And
Trace Jackson Davis 2 years ago.
Right. It just was kind of weird to me that you're telling me we can't drop somebody to get a little bit of action on that. Just drop somebody. And it can, but listen, they won 29 games and lost 9? So I should probably shut up. But that was the one thing all season that I was like, why do we keep doing that?
It's a fair question. Now with UConn, if you came out of halftime doubling Clingan, maybe that's how UConn hit some threes and then you're in trouble that way. But to let him go single covered was tough. You weren't going to get those stops with Coleman. Illinois, I think at that point, needed to just figure out how to score with UConn, assuming the Huskies were going to start getting going offensively. They're number 1 offensive team in the country for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Could Illinois figure out how to attack UConn and Clingan? And if they didn't, it was going to be over. And obviously it was over. It was like, I wrote about it. It was like a knockout punch in boxing or MMA. And usually if you get knocked out, it's never going to be pretty.
Right.
And it definitely wasn't.
Yeah, their knees started wobbling third round.
Oh, boy.
Let me ask you guys this. Here's what I thought that game would be. Now that it's done. I thought that game would be UConn leading by 8 points the entire time, but both teams scoring at a high rate, and eventually us complaining because our defense isn't rising to the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I thought that would be. I thought that it would be at one point, 68-60 or 78-70. And they're matching everything we give, and we're still staying alive. We're hitting, we fall by 11, then we hit a big 3 by Goody to get back within 8. That's kind of the way I saw that game play out. Not one time in my mind did I think we'd win that game. And I think I said that last week. I mean, you're going to let yourself hope. Obviously, I'm not pulling against Illinois. I would have loved to have been wrong, but I just thought there's no way they're beating UConn. And the way that I thought the game would play out, it kind of did for a little bit, obviously, but every game starts out
because they punched you
close.
early.
They did. 11-0, 9-0?
At least 9-0.
So, unlike Morehead State, like Morehead State, you answered. And
Marcus
had it.
Damas did.
He did, yeah, he really did. And you had a chance to take a lead even in that game. But then it was just like, wow, when they went on that run. I don't know if I'm a guy, even knowing how easy it is, and I mean this, how easy it is to hit a three-pointer in college basketball, and how easy it is because of two things. I think these guys are so good at shooting threes because that's what they've done since they were 8 years old. That's what everybody does. That's all Andrew has ever done in his life is shoot threes. These guys at this, and I bring my son into that just as a comparison to someone I've been around since 8 years old. These guys all can shoot threes. I mean, Amani Hansberry hit 2. So in my mind, part of me says, okay, that shot is almost so easy that you have to defend the three-point line like Illinois did all season. And the right thing to do then is to just let Coleman give up 2s because you're still then 1 point ahead if you catch my drift. You're not giving up 3, you're only giving up 2. But, man, is it frustrating to just watch a ball pounded into the middle of the lane and then an easy layup. Mm-hmm. And you almost feel like you're just getting defeated a little at a time. You know what I'm saying? Instead of dropping a nuke, they're just coming at you from 24 different angles and just slowly wearing your army down. It's just so frustrating on that end. But I don't know. I kept saying the only time UConn has lost this year is when they don't make threes, and they kept missing. Spencer had a couple of really good looks. Newton had a couple of looks. And I'm like, guys, I'm feeling this.
The door was open.
Right. When it was still 23-all or when it was close, I was like, guys, I'm kind of feeling Illinois doing this. But then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I'm like, has Shannon done anything?
No, he didn't. And he settled for some pull-ups. And he went to the rim a few times.
He did.
I think he at times tried to sell some calls that he just wasn't going to get. And I didn't have a problem. I know that some people on Twitter felt like the referees should have made it a more tightly called game. I was fine with it being physical. I didn't think that Klingon was hacking. He was just
I don't think he fouled once.
A mammoth in there at 7'2", 285, 290 that it was Illinois run into a brick wall. So Terrence had a phenomenal postseason. It was just a dud at the end. Kind of like a dud that Iowa had against Loyola. It happens. It happens out there. And Illinois needed, though, him to be the best player on the floor, probably to beat UConn. Marcus Damas looked the part.
Yes.
He was outstanding in the first half. For players other than Marcus, though, in the first half to go 4 for 25 from the field.
Is that what they did?
You're lucky you weren't down by like 20 at that point.
100% agree.
So let me ask you this before we maybe pivot.
I know we got to go to the portal. We got to get some of this other stuff going.
How many times, if you replayed that game 10 times, now be it in Boston, an 80% UConn crowd, as good as UConn is, how many times does Illinois win, you think?
None.
None?
I don't think they win at all. It would take an absolute Herculean effort from Terrence Shannon to beat them. I'm talking 40, 44 points, Damas gets you 22, and UConn, I just really think that's how good they are.
Yeah.
Kyle, am I wrong?
I'd say Illinois could get them once out of every 10 times they played, especially if Brad Underwood adjusted and Shannon played better and you bank on one terrible shooting night. That's about all I could imagine.
That game was the one where you're playing on, like, Nintendo. I know I'm way probably old with that, but you just reset it.
Right, yeah.
You're
on that tough level, and you're like, yep, try it again. You're up all night.
You're trying to take the Cardinals to the Super Bowl, and they get down 28-0 in the first 5 minutes, and you just kind of, why'd that reset? I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to do with that game and try it over. You know, let's try this again. Hell, I'm here for another 2 hours. Let's try it again.
Right.
I'm dumb probably to say 0. I don't mean that Illinois is a good basketball team. Mm-hmm. And good basketball teams, we see it. UConn has been beaten this year. So the right answer is 1. Because UConn has been beaten, 3 times?
Yep.
I assume by really good teams.
They lost to Kansas on the road. They lost at Seton Hall, and they lost at Creighton.
Okay. So the Seton Hall was kind of the outlier a little bit.
I think Klingon got hurt in that game, too, if I remember.
The Seton Hall game?
Yep.
Well. So, realistically, I need to say 1 on that. But it's no more than 1. I don't think.
Yeah, I'd say it's 1. Could it be possibly 2? Possibly. Yeah. And I think that the circumstances set itself up to be the possibility of that being the 1, with them struggling like they did offensively. And it was frustrating that we had the conversation we did on Friday of, the national narrative. I'm around a lot of national reporters. Right. It's like, man, wouldn't Illinois just be thrilled if they played it close? And I'm like, come on, guys. Like that's not how they're thinking. I think that's belittling Illinois a little bit too much. And to have it that score, as it was a clunker of a first half, but I felt like UConn was on the verge of feeling some real tension if that was still a 5-point game 10 minutes later into the game. And we talked about how would they have reacted if Illinois maybe was able to trade punches there early in the second half. So I think Illinois missed an opportunity. Even if Illinois maybe said, all right, if they didn't start Ty Rodgers in the second half, if they would have taken jump shots instead of going at Klingon, would they still have won the game? I'm not saying that.
No.
But I do think that they're not completely unbeatable. I feel like Illinois could have gotten them once, but the better team definitely did win. I think that will, over time, even now, probably settle in well enough to where it's like, we should be in Phoenix. It was a possession here. We're better than that. Like, the better team won, and Illinois had a really good year. And
I don't think I'll ever think that we should be in Phoenix. Not with that team.
Now, it would be nice. It would have been nice if you were in a different bracket, like you said, and maybe you would have faced them in Phoenix.
Absolutely.
I think you want to get blown out on that national stage, but you at least would have had another week of.
I would have taken the smoke show if it would have been in Phoenix instead of Boston. Boston in front of all their fans, especially.
Boston.
That would have made things a little bit more even up, too, in terms of, because Illinois fans, they travel. Hell, that UCLA game 2 years ago, that was like 80% Illinois, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to believe that, let's say Illinois finishes the season ranked 8th in the AP. Let's say they finish 8th, and UConn wins it and they're 1. It's hard for me to believe that the number 1 team in the country is 25 points better than the 8th. That's hard for me to believe. So I feel like Illinois is a team that should be kind of like Northwestern, that lost by, 16? That's more of what I expected out of Illinois, to keep that about a 8 to 10 point game, and then maybe late free throws put UConn ahead double digits, and you move on. But not losing by 25.
Yeah, UConn was against Northwestern was 17.
17. So, yeah, it's hard. I don't think UConn is 25 points better than you. I do think they're 10 or more better than you. So, I don't know.
Oh, and last point, Ken Pom says they're the 5th best team since 2000.
Oh.
Their analytics. So it's a very special UConn team. At this point, I'm rooting for UConn against Purdue. I want to see the matchup. It would be
I do too.
A heck of a national title battle in terms of giving us the best game. And I know that we talked about that as far as the college football playoff too. I don't want to see, like, what if, for whatever reason,
what
if NC State beats Purdue and then they play UConn? Like, is anyone going to really believe that would be a game?
No.
I don't know what the heck's up with the NC State, though. So.
I don't either, man. DJ Burns. Is that his name? He was at Tennessee, wasn't he? And then moved on. Here's my last question before we get – somebody asked if Dane's in the portal. He did tweet out that he was entering the portal.
Yep, he's in the portal.
Here's my last question. Do you have to recruit a 7-footer now to play for a national title? Seriously, I mean, you're going to see the chances are great that it's going to be UConn and Purdue in the national title game, a 7-4 versus 7-2. And those two absolutely are so huge to both teams. Edey is much more important, I think, than Klingon is.
Yeah.
But because UConn has more around Klingon than Purdue does around Edey. And I'm not saying that Lawyer and Braden Smith's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. So,
but Klingon's probably, as we saw, probably even of a better defender than Edey is.
Yeah.
And UConn doesn't get – their offense sometimes overshadows the fact that they have a top 10 defense. And they're great at defending the rim, and he's a big part of that. In addition, then obviously we saw he can score it too. So
I agree.
But yeah, it's funny how it's like, the way that the game's moving, Illinois is smart for not. I'm not saying that they're not, for maybe pivoting away from the traditional Kofi Coburn ball, throw it into Kofi, have that lumbering 7-footer, but then you see these teams making it work. I think it maybe shows that Illinois still could have went deep with Kofi. I think anybody that's ever said, well, Kofi prevented Illinois from getting past getting to where they should have gone with that IO team. I think that was always not true.
Yes.
But it is kind of interesting, the push and pull of wanting to play stretch modern basketball, NBA-style basketball versus this old-school big-time prize fight that's going to happen in the paint between Edey and Klingon if we get it.
Yep. The reason you haven't heard from Kyle is that I got to go to a baseball game, second hour, so Kyle's you're going to hear all his thoughts.
He's been watching the Cubs is why we haven't heard from him.
Right, yeah, he doesn't care about this show right now.
Imanaga, he almost had a no-hitter.
Tell you what.
Give up 2?
Yeah, 2 hits, 9 strikeouts.
And then Morel hit a Little League inside the park homer.
Did he really?
He hit
That was a Rockies moment there, just your average ground ball single that somehow gets to the wall for an inside the park homer.
Oh, my God.
And then Morel going into third, the relay throw gets booted by like the shortstop, and I'm like, oh, my God. And he scored. On a not-so-funny note, obviously, this morning I read that Vontae Davis passed away, the former Illinois football player. Illinois great. And the police said there was no foul play. He was found in his home, but they're trying to, kind of rule what he passed away of. I don't think we know.
Yep.
But he was found in his home down in Florida, 35 years old.
Jeez.
Vontae Davis. He was so good. So good. I mean, think Devin Witherspoon. He was in that category. So, sad news. 35 years old. How old are you, Derek?
33.
33. And all the life that he had ahead of him.
That's tragic.
I hated to hear it. I hated to see that, and I know that we've had a few people. I had a couple buddies text, and then we've had some people text in about it. So, yeah, we did see that. Apologies, but wanted to definitely talk about hoops. So.
I'll never forget that block punt he had in the Missouri game for a touchdown, the start of that 2007 season. I know they lost that game, but just a vital piece of a squad that broke through to the Rose Bowl and a huge recruiting get for Ron Zook. And
he just shut down one side of the field,
right,
like a good cornerback does. And then on the other side, you had who was the wide receiver that was so good that
Aurelius Ben?
Aurelius. Yeah. You had those two that were just – you had a national star, a national player on each side of the ball.
Yep.
And it showed that year for Illinois. It was amazing. Okay. I know people are itching about all this portal talk. Seems like Illinois has gotten a guy.
Yeah,
a couple have
got
gone
somebody. They lost somebody today.
Somebody might be on campus.
Tis the portal. There is no off season. I have no life. Okay. We'll talk about that next. If you want to weigh in, you can. 217-359-2255 on the U of I Line Link text line. We'll be back to talk about Dane Danger and Illinois' new addition via the portal today. Stick with us for that. This is The Drive.
Local, personal, trusted. Hi, this is Ata Durakan with First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana, and we've been serving Champaign County since 1908. Our institution is safe, strong, and stable. We operate on a foundation of responsible and sound practices, and you can rest easy knowing we're your bank. Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial, Inc., fast, friendly, and local, with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try, and we think you'll love it here. First Federal Savings Bank, 356bank.com, member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 435120.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club?
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Rieken, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
In an ever-changing real estate market, it is so important to work with experienced agents like Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor teams at Taylor Realty Associates. They have the knowledge and expertise to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Trust the experience and success of Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor team at Taylor Realty Associates. Give them a call today at 217-355-0700 or visit them online at taylorboys.com. That's taylorboys.com.
Think warm thoughts and get your pool plans ready now. Buy a membership at the Urbana Park District Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center. There's a huge discount for individual and family memberships. Go in person to the Phillips Recreation Center or the Urbana Indoor Aquatic Center. Call 217-367-1544. Check out the pool with the Urbana Park District. You belong here. UrbanaParks.org.
You need the world's fastest mower to create your free time. With Dixie Chopper, what you got to look at is the warranties. Dixie Chopper, all of their models, you're getting a 3-year unlimited hours bumper-to-bumper warranty. That's on the whole thing. Then your commercial units, you get up to a 3-year no-hour limit or 5-year 3,000-hour limit on the drivetrain. So that'd be your engine, your 2 gearboxes, transmissions, and all that.
Well, that sounds pretty solid.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Things break, and even if it's built well like a Dixie Chopper, you need to have that covered, and you get what you pay for, basically.
And I can go see Andy and get on one of those things, couldn't I?
Yes, you can. You can go see Andy at Dedicated Diesel at 1313 Triumph Drive in Urbana. You can reach him through Dedicated Equipment on Facebook or call him at 217-328-0562. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You as well. Tim Onstadt, Gale Frericks Trucking, Dedicated Diesel, and Championship Barbecueologist.
At ABC Heating and Air, it's our promise to help you always be comfortable. Do you need rescued because you're burning hot? Do you need rescued because your air is shot? Call ABC Heating and Air at 352-5400 and let us rescue you from the heat. ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400. Can't you see you need to call me at ABC? Call ABC Heating and Air. That's ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400.
When it comes no further than Sarah Champagne, your trusted automotive destination. They carry a lineup of top brands including Honda, BMW, Subaru, GMC, and Buick. And they're not just about cars, they're about people. Their team is dedicated to providing you with trustworthy service and dependable vehicles that fit your lifestyle. Experience the difference at Sarah Champagne. Visit Sarah, S-E-R-R-A, champagne.com. When you make the right decision, it feels good, like picking the perfect accent rug or choosing a good night's sleep over an all-night crime show binge. It feels really good to make the right insurance decision, too. That's why State Farm agent Kurt Lenschow is right here in Champaign-Urbana to help you select the right protection at the right price. Kurt will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect if the unexpected happens. Just call him when you want the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's get to some of the news of the day. Dane Danger has entered the transfer portal. Illini big man has one more year of eligibility remaining. Big part of the Illini's push in the postseason. I don't think you win the Big Ten tournament without him, especially what he did against Ohio State. And he really stepped up in that Morehead State game as well.
Yep.
And that was just an important piece to have off the bench. As Luke Goody came on late in the year, Dane Danger. It was just nice to have complementary pieces surrounding, obviously, what was a dominant force in Terrence Shannon. But Dane, I think, someone that a lot of people would have loved to have seen come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think Illini, as far as the staff, liked the idea of keeping him. I just don't know that they wanted to give him the role that he ultimately wants, as far as maybe a higher usage starting five that gets a lot of post touches. I think Brad likes playing the spaced out basketball that they do, and it sounds like that he's got some NIL opportunities. Not that that would happen before he hits the portal, if that would be floated around or anything. But I think his price tag is probably a little higher than what Illinois would want. Of course, that goes hand in hand with a role and that type of thing. So it seemed like Dane was going to be destined for the portal. Probably would, if you would have asked me in January, early February, who's most likely on Illinois to go in the portal, Dane probably would have been the first name to come out of my mouth.
I'm with you.
That kind of changed here in recent weeks as I heard that obviously how he's playing and how I heard that Illinois would like the idea of him to come back, but him going in today is not a surprise. What do you guys think of that?
It's the opposite of Epps, right? Was it Jaden? Jaden Epps played every minute he could. You gave him every chance you could. You started him as a freshman.
Right.
And then he enters the portal.
Right.
Dane Danger, of all the people on Illinois, had every right to enter that portal. I feel like you didn't play him enough. Now, was it warranted? Probably. You just went 29 and whatever. I think you understood what was going on. Now, was he a big part, especially late, of those as you spelled out? Heck yeah. There were times, though, that Dane would get in for 2 minutes. And I said he was like Brad Underwood's, he would put him in just so Brad could not yell at him, but lecture him for 20 minutes. Because he'd take him right out, and then he would lecture him. And I'll be honest, there were times where I'm like even that UConn game, I'm like, why are we not putting Dane in right now? Why are you not trying it to do that? And by the way, is there anything better than watching Cubs fans at home hammered singing Go Cubs Go, and they're just like hugging each other? Oh, go Cubs Go.
And their ponchos today.
Yeah, and how about the Cardinals, a chance to split and just blowing it last night? Anyway, I was not blown away by Epps entering the portal because that's what we got to get used to. But I was almost like, how dare you? How dare you enter the portal after everything that we rolled out for you here at Illinois? And then I would be as shocked if Dane Danger returned next year as I was shocked that Epps went into the portal. I'd be like, why is Dane coming back? Like, he literally got mistreated for 2 years. Even though I think someone could argue, rightfully so, it was warranted that he didn't play all the time. Dane has got a lot of talent, and he's a likable guy.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that people get frustrated about, is that he's like a big teddy bear. And when he gets on a roll and does his footwork and different things, especially on the offensive end, you just fall in love with a guy. You're like, my gosh, does he have some skills for a big man? So you just always want more, and I truly wish in the old days Dane would have been a perfect senior year. He emerged kind of like Kevin Turner did with the Illini, and you could go back and go through a lot of different examples of guys that finally their senior year, let's say, just really – it's just kind of a cool thing. He came here from Baylor halfway through. He left Baylor, and then he just kind of felt like he was fighting an uphill battle the entire time. So it doesn't shock me that he's in the portal, and it would not shock me at all if he's not here next year. Which stinks.
Now that he's in the portal, I'd fully assume that he's going
to
venture out to somewhere else. I think that, how many years prior to Kofi would you have killed to have Dane Danger as your five-man?
Goodness.
A lot of them. A lot of them. He's talented, and he's, like you said, got a lot of offensive skill, then added a higher motor, like the way that he was running in transition, the way that he was defending, more active. I think it's fair to sit there and say 9 minutes against UConn. Now, he did have some unideal finishing attempts around the basket. I think offensively, he wouldn't have given you the spacing, the counter to try to say, all right, pull Ty Rodgers off the floor so Klingon actually has to guard somebody in space. Dane Danger's not going to accomplish that. I don't think he's going to score over Klingon.
No.
Defensively, I do think he could have held his ground better than Coleman would have. But, I compliment him for staying the course, for not just after playing 2 minutes in back-to-back games at Maryland and at Penn State late in February, for just checking out and saying, all right, we know how this is going to end. I'm going in the portal. You guys aren't going to play me that much, and let's just kind of get there before it's over type of thing. I mean, Sky Clark just said, I'm not starting. What? I quit.
Oh,
I'm out of here. So, a big credit to Dane for being selfless as far as that goes. I do think he'll end up somewhere, and I didn't know if it would be Minnesota because Pharrell Payne was playing.
Right?
From Minnesota. Pharrell Payne, though, was looking pretty good as an athletic, younger big man, although he's in the portal now.
He's in the portal.
Maybe Dane, that opens things up for the Gophers to land him. He could put up a nice stat line somewhere else.
Agree. He's an All-American in Minnesota. I mean, the way he played in that Big Ten tournament.
That's true.
Maybe not All-American. He's all Big Ten.
Yeah.
If he continues to play that way.
18-8 against Ohio State.
I think Minnesota would be a great landing spot for him if Payne isn't back.
Mm-hmm. I think so, too.
I forgot that he was from Minnesota.
What do you guys make of, from Illinois' standpoint, assuming it went this way, Dane says, I want a bigger role, I want to be a starting 5-man, and I want to get a decent NIL paycheck, and if Illinois said no, thanks, are you good with that?
I'm good with it only because Brad even sensed another step of what you need to do to put a team together to get to a Final Four. Now, I think, again, it's unfair treatment in the sense that I'd love to play Clemson to get there. I'd love to play Tennessee or Creighton to get there. It's easy to say Duke, well, how lucky are they? They got to play NC State, but they beat Houston. So you got to give them credit for beating a 1. But I would have loved to have played anyone else to try to get to a Final Four instead of UConn. But still, that said, I think you have to recruit over Dane. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah.
I think you have to recruit over Luke Goody at a shooting guard or at 2 guard. I mean, Luke as a shooter is fine, and I love his passion and his hustle. There's nobody that gives it more. And, man, when the tournament time rolls around, his eyes light up, and he's ready to go.
Big 3 against Iowa State.
Huge.
Rebounded his butt off in postseason.
But I think you're not recruiting over Terrence Shannon, and you're not recruiting over the way Marcus Damask played this year. But there are spots on this team where you could get better, and that's what Brad has to do. And now he's got the ammunition to do it. He's got a solid NIL package. He's got proof now of a team that made the Elite Eight. His team was second in the country essentially in offense. He essentially had an All-American. He had a guy that came 1 year and turned into an All-Big Ten level player. I mean, I think that Brad, in other words, I would love to see Dane back, but I hope we have somebody even better at that spot.
That's fair. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I also just think the fit with some of Illinois' younger front court pieces with Amani Hansberry and Morez Johnson coming in, especially when you throw in the fact that if Ty Rodgers comes back, if Sincere Harris comes back, all of a sudden you're bordering on Mike Woodson level spacing out there in some of those lineups. So I think Illinois can find a better fit for next year's roster and the core that they're going to have than Dane in the front court. And I think they can be similarly versatile to what they were this year, which, like Lon mentioned, Brad Underwood clearly liked the way that his roster was built this year because it finally got him deep in the tournament. I think you can find a better fit than Dane, even though he probably would produce.
Where's Tijon Lucas and Tate to round out that starting 5?
Boy. Yeah, I mentioned Minnesota at the 5. He could go play the 3 for Indiana.
Yeah.
He's got some ball handling. Non-shooter.
I want to hear you talk about Jake Davis before I get out of here.
Gotcha.
Somebody tweeted out today that Nicole Kidman's about to wreck the Big Ten.
The hair is something, man. Wow.
He's like Weird Al Yankovic back in the day, or Yankovic or Vitch, whatever it was. Shooter, right? Pretty good shooter, 6'6".
Yep.
Okay.
From the Indianapolis area.
Whoa, we've got another
Indiana kid, yeah.
Ooh.
Went to Mercer. That's in the SoCon Conference, and shot 39% from 3 as a freshman. In the conference play, was even higher than that, about 43%. Really good catch and shoot guy, can come off screens and make shots. Decent size, 6'6" and over 200 pounds. Kind of played a 4 at times, kind of small ball 5 for them. I think he's going to be a 3 or a 4 here. Of course, one of the questions you wonder about, I think in particular can he play on the wing at the 3, is can he guard in space? And and talking to him today, he said, I've got to get better defending one-on-one, and not the most laterally quick guy, but someone they love that, as Kyle laid out, some of the guys that you have coming back, I don't question Illinois' ability to rebound next year, have athleticism, toughness. You got to have shot makers. He'll be a floor spacer guy that can fill it up in a role. I think he's an off-the-bench shooter and someone that's bought into that. And
Yeah.
as always, he told me, being from the heart of Big Ten countries, always wanted to play in the Big Ten, and
cool.
Jumped at the opportunity to do so with Illini.
Wonder why not Indiana? I mean, they need shooters worse than anything in the world.
They don't believe in it.
They don't believe in it. And then from reading your portal stuff on Illini Inquirer, now that's paid, so
Yeah.
I'm not giving it away. You can if you want.
Sure.
But, I mean, it just seems like Illinois is in on some
They're
pretty
active.
solid guys.
Yeah,
They're active.
They're active.
They're active.
AJ Storr being one of those guys. The big man out of Stanford, Maxime Renaud.
Oh.
Hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's from France.
Man, when
So-
he goes up against Malik Reneau,
yeah, right.
you'll have a hell of a
Malik Reneau, Maxime Renaud. 7-footer from France, 15.5 points, 10 rebounds a game. Can step
Ooh.
out and shoot the three a little bit.
Nice.
He's one of the best portal guys out there right now. Of course, we're early in the portal cycle. There is a shorter window this year. You got to be in by the start of May. So we might have a little bit more of an expedited portal list. But, yeah, I think Illinois will look for potentially a stretch 5. I think we already talked about stretch 4, a point guard. We can get into all that here in the next hour and really the next few weeks, because that's all that I'll be living with. I know we're late. Haven't done this in a while, so apologies, Kyle. But we'll send Lon out of here. Enjoy the
Let's go.
baseball
Thank
today.
you. I can't believe we're playing. But
And let's talk some more basketball. 217-359-2255 on the U of I Line League text line. We got to catch a break. This is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
In the Florida Constitution protects the right to abortion. Lawyers for the state said when voters adopted that clause in 1980, few people realized it would cover abortion. But Florida voters will now have a say on abortion. The state Supreme Court also ruling that constitutional amendments on abortion rights and recreational marijuana can be added to this November's ballot. The man accused of gunning down a New York City police officer during a traffic stop is indicted. Guy Rivera charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder of a sergeant at the scene.
Going after law enforcement in the city of New York sends a message. We want to send a message back. You can't do that. We will indict you for it.
Queens DA Melinda Katz says a second suspect who was driving the car is also indicted on gun charges, including a former gun possession count. Lindy Jones had been out on bail for that. Now he's held without bail. Rivera remains hospitalized. The officer killed, Jonathan Diller, has been posthumously promoted to detective. America is listening to Fox News.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Are you over 30 and putting off life insurance? It's time to get a quick quote from Ethos, a better, easier way to get term life insurance, all online with no medical exam. Answer a few health questions and you could be approved for up to $2 million. Isn't it worth 10 minutes to help protect your family's financial security? Ethos, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
The White House says U.S. and Israeli teams had a constructive engagement in a 2-hour virtual meeting today about the Gaza city of Rafah, where Israel wants to target remaining Hamas battalions. There's no indication they discussed today's reports in Iran and Syria blaming Israel for an airstrike that killed 7 members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard in Syria's capital, including 2 generals. Just days after reports that bird flu had spread to dairy cows, a human case has emerged for only the second time in the U.S.
The Texas Department of State Health Services says a person has tested positive for H5N1 avian flu after having direct contact with dairy farm cows. The only known symptom right now is an eye infection. The last and only other time a human tested positive for this strain was in April 2 years ago. The CDC says 4 people have previously contracted the H7N2 strain. Now, the USDA confirmed last week the avian flu's been detected for the first time in dairy cows in Kansas and Texas. The CDC CDC says the risk to the general public from these viruses remains low. The FDA insists milk from sick cows is diverted from the supply, but that the pasteurization process would anyway kill bacteria and viruses. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Fast food workers in California have a new minimum wage.
It's a $20 an hour minimum wage for workers at fast food places in California with at least 60 locations nationwide. That's an annual salary of $41,600 a year for a 5-day work week with no days off. Some restaurant owners warn there will be higher prices and job cuts. The overall minimum wage in California is $16 an hour, behind only Washington State and Washington, D.C. for highest in the country. A law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in September also establishes a fast food council with representatives for workers and employers to work out future pay increases and working condition standards.
Fox's Chris Foster. The federal minimum wage, unchanged since 2009, is $7.25 an hour. Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Okay, everyone, let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign-Urbana this Saturday. Classic spring weather pattern continuing on here for this week. Matter of fact, almost late winter feel at times by the middle part of the week. And we'll certainly move right back from late winter to an almost early summer feel at some point by mid to late next week. No shortage of rainfall continuing on in these early days of April, including maybe some of the white stuff. Cloudy, mild for the day today. A shower around this morning. Showers, thunderstorms get going this afternoon. 65, but in a range of temperatures actually north to south out of Champaign County. Gusty east wind. Periods of rain tonight, maybe a thunderstorm. Low down to 52. For the day tomorrow, northeast to north winds get going. 15 to 25 and gusty. 53 in the morning, falling to the 40s in the afternoon. Showers, maybe a thunderstorm as well for the morning hours. Late night snow and rain tomorrow night. A low down to 35. And a few showers of snow and rain for the day on Wednesday up to 45. 40s for highs on Thursday. 50s Friday and Saturday. 60s to low 70s Sunday, Monday, and thunderstorms return. For Steve A.J. Broadcasting, Abby Roches, Greg Solgay.
It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5, rolling along with some more transfer portal talk, Illinois basketball, anything you want to hit on, 217-359-2255 on the U of I Illini Link text line. We discussed Dane Danger hitting the portal. Will he be the only Illini to hit the portal? I think that's a fair question. Why don't we start there, Kyle? We got a lot of different angles to break this thing down. I know somebody asked about Marcus Domask and his waiver. Coleman Hawkins had comments after the game against UConn about his future. Sounds like he's done in a Illini uniform. I want to get your thoughts and just throw that around a little bit, and then we can get to maybe some more portal options for the Illini. But with Dane in the portal, what do you make of, and this is, we're speculating here a lot in a lot of senses, can read some tea leaves, can just kind of logically break it down as far as playing time, roles, and all that, but would you imagine that Dane is the last of guys going into the portal from this Illini roster? I will say Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn has been very vocal. One of the guys, admittedly, that with his lack of playing time, with his mom being very vocal on social media, and at one point during the season actually putting on Facebook, I hope he transfers. She also said, I hope Illinois loses the rest of their games. But he has said he's coming back. He had a Twitter post about it. He's had comments to the media over there in Boston that he's all bought in on another year in Champaign. But we have, of course, Sincere Harris. You have Ty Rogers, who I don't think is an issue. Amani Hansberry, Luke Goody, Nicolo Moretti. What do you think, Kyle? Will we see another Illini go in the portal? I think usually the odds say probably.
Yes, I would imagine at least one more enters the portal. And it's just kind of a unique situation that Illinois is in this offseason because there's certain guys like Ty Rogers, Amani Hansberry, Luke Goody. Like there's certain guys that it'd be hard to imagine them leaving. And based on everything they've said and how they've kind of bought in, I think you probably aren't super concerned about those guys, but it almost just feels like to me that Illinois' current roster, it wouldn't stun me if any guy hit the portal.
That's
like,
fair.
I just think anyone hitting the portal wouldn't like make me fall to the floor. And I think that's a product kind of a uncertain situation with losing 4 of your 5 starters, losing 5 seniors, and all the guys that you're trying to retain, it's not totally clear what their role's going to be. It's not, and no guy that Illinois theoretically has coming back is a guy that you can pencil in and say, I'm positive he's going to play 30 minutes start and be an all-conference type of guy. Like so there's some uncertainty with almost everybody. And to me, in this era, I think, honestly, it'd be wise for every guy to evaluate their own options.
True.
And it's just, you can't blame kids for taking advantage of what the current system allows for. And so I think definitely at least one more will probably end up hitting the portal. And really, to me, nothing will totally surprise me with this current group of Illinois retainees.
I'm glad you mentioned that as far as exercising your options. While someone like Dane Danger, and we assume it with a lot of these other guys that go to the portal, like it seems pretty clear that AJ Storr is not going to return to Wisconsin. And in a lot of cases, players going into the portal are closing the door on their previous stop and not considering going back. I do think we'll have to see it actually happen to play out this way, but there has been increasing speculation and buzz and people around college basketball, the industry, those that coach in it, expect that more players will utilize the ability to go in the portal to then open up conversations and dialogues with other coaching staff, pretty much like an opt-out in a professional league. And then, of course, you could, like in the pros, re-sign with the team that you were previously with. You do risk, though, by going, once you go in the portal, that place does not have to honor your scholarship. They could pull the funding on your classes like that very semester. They don't have to take you back if you want to come back. So people have to be delicate about how that goes. Now, of course, if you're a bona fide starting caliber player, a star, obviously, you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about that. Now, could you rub relationships the wrong way and legacies and that whole kind of deal? Although I think Kofi Coburn could probably tell you that if you're of that caliber, I don't think Kofi, as we sit here today, sometimes people have to be reminded that he actually
don't even remember that.
He actually went into the transfer portal. So, but I think that's fair that, like, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, if Ty Rodgers wanted to go in the portal and see what other people were telling him, like as far as role, as far as NIL and all of that, it'd be hard to ultimately blame him. I use him as an example. I haven't heard anything on him actually doing that. If I were to power rank the guys that I thought would stay, he'd be towards the top, if not at the top. So I agree with you, though. The odds usually are that somebody else will. I would just expect that. Sincere's one that admittedly I really do question. Now, I asked him in Boston. I had a limited, brief opportunity to interview him. He didn't have a whole lot to say, but I asked him, do you like your situation in Illinois and how that looks? What are you feeling about that? And he said, yeah, I'm in a great situation. And that was kind of just really his answer. It wasn't a pound the fist on the table, I'm for sure staying, but it was kind of just at least a little bit of a affirmation of, he didn't come out and say, well, I'm out, or I wasn't happy this year, or what have you. Not that anybody maybe in that position in the locker room is going to tip their hand, so to speak. I do think in general too, like, even though like this happens, I know that by the rules there's not supposed to be tampering. You're not supposed to have contact with other staffs before you go into the portal. But even before there was even a transfer portal, that stuff happened. So I think that would be fair game to assume that other players are taking the temperature, both at Illinois, around the country, and seeing whether through their agent, through their coaches, through maybe even themselves, what is this person saying about what it would look like if I played for this team, or what is my NIL value at this place. So I think that's something that could happen. Luke Goody's one. He's our guy, by the way, that I wonder about. I still wonder about. I don't have that one totally figured out. Like, I think that, especially the way he came on in March in the postseason, I know that he loves winning. He loves being a part of winning teams. I do think he's a selfless dude that I say that about a lot of players. Like, don't get me wrong, guys want to play, and I think they do get frustrated when they don't get the roles or the minutes that they want. But I think Luke is willing to be a supporting cast member on a winning team. I think he's loved the fact that he's been a part of some Big Ten titles and going on this deep run. But he's
also already graduated from Illinois.
He's already graduated. He walked at senior day. That was interesting. I know he had his answer on this show about wanting to recognize his accomplishment. But that still makes me scratch my head a little bit on whether there was more to that. And I'm not putting words in his mouth or anything, but it's something you at least wonder. Because he has 1 year left. And I don't think as of right now, I wouldn't say he's a starter on next year's team. Could he go be a starter at somewhere else, like a Butler? Yeah, maybe. It might be something that he would be interested in checking out.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's just kind of the world we're living in now is I think guys are going to have options. Guys are going to have people in their ear. Guys are going to hear, especially in the NIL world. Now, maybe certain guys, like I don't know what Luke Goody would command NIL-wise. Mm-hmm. It's no disrespect to him, but it's just there's obviously different tiers of NIL priority for schools. But especially NIL-wise now, you're probably hearing some figures thrown in your direction, whether it be from agents that these players have now, NIL agents, whether it be from family members, people around you, or just staffs directly. Like you said, that happens.
Yeah, it does.
That happens. So you can't really blame anybody at this point, especially in Illinois' situation now where all these guys we're talking about, there's questions about their role. Like you guys talked about the Jaden Epps situation last hour. Like that's a little different because he had a massive role as a freshman and was theoretically going to have a massive role as a sophomore.
Yep.
All these guys that Illinois theoretically could retain either had their minutes go up and down this year, or like in the case of Sincere Harris, who knows where he factors in, who knows where Illinois prioritizes him in the backcourt rotation. They could go land 3 guard transfers, and all of a sudden Sincere Harris is playing the same role he is as a freshman. He probably doesn't want that after spending a year working. So it's just I wouldn't be surprised with anything that happens. I know Illinois probably has to approach this offseason recruiting over a lot of these guys because you just don't know, and you also just are probably uncomfortable putting asking too much out of a lot of these guys, and maybe another program will ask that. So I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think a lot of these answers probably won't come for a little while here because I think, like you mentioned in the case of Sincere, whoever it is, I think there's probably up until that May 1st date probably going to be kind of a feeling out process of, let's see who they do bring in. Let's see where I do stand. Mm-hmm. And I also wonder just on the Goody point specifically, like guy Illinois landed today, Jake Davis, similar skill set to Luke and similar role probably on next year's team. So that's something he's probably looking at as well.
I would think so. Although I would assume, of course, you'd have to have it play out in practice, and not that it would be a bad thing. You can have 2 shooters in basketball.
No, it's not to say they both can't be on the roster.
Someone text that at Mike Woodson. He's not aware. But, Luke having the experience in the program, being a senior, I wouldn't think he'd be afraid of competing with Jake Davis. But it's a fair point. Like they have similar skill sets, size with the ability to make shots, and probably in competition in a similar realm of the 3 or maybe the 4 and how that ultimately goes. And I think it's also interesting, like if we were advising, like say we were NIL agents, Kyle, would you want, I think it's interesting to kind of evaluate with Sincere, say, to go in on the front end. You, of course, wouldn't guarantee your ability to go back if it didn't work out or if you didn't get the opportunities that you thought you'd want. But sometimes spots get taken up. Like if Cincinnati's looking for a guard and maybe they find their guy. If you're going to wait a few weeks to go in the portal, maybe they find their guy and that opportunity's gone, versus then if you wait it out and see who Illinois gets, sometimes you get what I'm saying? Like I think it's an interesting thing to evaluate as a player if you want to go in on the front end at the very start of it versus wait things out. Although, as I've seen it, especially for some talented starting level players, guys that wait, sometimes that inflates your price,
Paul
your price
Mulcahy.
tag. Oh yeah, my God.
How much did he get from Washington?
I don't know what he got.
Go like 15-15 and come off the bench at the end of the year.
Yeah, there was talks of like, yeah, you might have to give Paul Mulcahy $400,000 or $500,000. I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know if he actually got that, but that was the talk of it. So I don't know. That would be kind of an interesting part of it as well. Is there a starter on this team for next year? Of course, it will matter who Illinois goes out and gets. Is Ty Rodgers a starter? That's probably the biggest question that I'm asking.
I think yes, theoretically, but the problem with him is just he's so unique in the fact that it really does matter the other four starters to determine whether he should start. And based on the year he had, I really like him, and I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he's going to keep getting better. But the fact of the matter is he's never going to be able to shoot the ball. So he's not a guy that I look at like, no doubt he should start next year. And that's the case with every single one of these guys that we're theoretically talking about here. Some of them could start in certain lineups, or some of them with a big offseason could make themselves into a guy who's pushing the starting lineup. Like Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn absolutely could start after another offseason of getting better. Amani Hansberry in the right lineup, if you pair him with a big, I think could take a jump in the offseason, be a starting caliber player. I think Luke is not going to hurt you as a starter. You probably would prefer to put the roster together where you're not relying on him to be a starter, but I wouldn't feel awful about him taking up one of the 5 starting spots. And then Ty started every game for an Elite 8 team this year.
Yeah.
So you have guys that I think can do it, but no one that is like a surefire, all right, we're returning this starter and he will start every game next season if he stays. I don't necessarily think you have that guy, and some of the pieces just skill set wise, and whether it's in the front court, knowing you bring in Merez Johnson or just Ty's inability to stretch the floor, I think lineups matter and other guys you bring in matter as well. So it's just such an interesting spot that they're in. You're bringing back theoretically a lot of talented guys, no like proven starting caliber guys, and yeah, it's such a weird conversation to have, because it's normally you at least have one or two guys that you're banking on, and it feels like there's just an unknown next to almost everybody's name on this Illinois roster right now.
No, that's a good answer. A couple of questions on the U of I Atlanta Link text line regarding Ty Rodgers. Brian says, serious question, has Ty Rodgers ever shot a jump shot in a game since being in Illinois? I know he hasn't taken a 3, a mid-range even, question mark.
I thought he attempted 1-3 as a freshman.
Yeah, I think it was the Jimmy V Classic against Texas. I remember him airballing from the corner.
Oh, boy.
And I think that Brad, after the game, said I liked that he took that shot. And I said in my head, I did not like that he took that shot. I think he's taken 2 jump shots. I think both were last year, and he missed both of them. I don't think he even took – did he take a jump shot in this year?
The best he ever did was like a 11-foot push shot.
Yeah.
That's about as much as he did.
I know that I think in practice leading up to Spain, did he hit a 3? No, I think he hit like a 12 to 15 like pull-up J, but then he also like airballed a 3. And Brett says, you've been around Ty Rodgers at practice, pregame warm-ups, do you think he can actually shoot the 3? I don't. No. The thing is, he doesn't even try. When he goes through warm-ups, and look, sometimes some players need to know who they are. They got to have the self-awareness of, this is how I get my points. I'm wasting my own time, or I'm messing with my mindset of practicing shots that I'm not going to shoot in the game. But in his like individual workouts, he doesn't shoot 3s, I can tell you that. And a lot of the ones I saw, especially first half of the year, it was all centered around getting to the rim, different finishes, booty ball. Late in the season, they were practicing some like 10-foot little pull-up shots. Didn't look the best, and they were unguarded. I'm not trying to knock Ty too much. Like, he's a good player, again, and he has improved from the free throw line. But the jumper needs work. I don't know that it'll ever get there to be something that you want him taking those shots.
Teams are still going to play him the same way until he shows up and says, I'm going to take 10 threes this game and make 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a world where that ever happens.
I mean, yeah, the 3 ball I agree with. can he ever get a 12 to 15-foot shot that he could take occasionally? For as hard as he works and for having 2 years left, I would think that that's, in the fact that he shot a okay percentage from the free throw line, wouldn't you think that's something he could do? Like, theoretically.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, coming out of high school, he wasn't a guy that never shot.
Right.
Like, it was a jump shot that you could tell evaluating him, yeah, this is going to need a lot of work, but it's not
Right.
that he was afraid to shoot and only his entire high school career took shots within 10 feet. Like, he could make some.
Right. No, it's interesting, though, because there are, like, highlights of him earlier in his high school career where he's, like, taking some threes and making some threes because, of course, highlight tapes don't have misses on them.
Right.
So he's made some threes. It was a little like when I watched him in the Mean Streets, and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole with here. I want to hit some different points, but in watching him in high school, it just was really it was really interesting how he just got very passive with trying to score outside the paint. He never tried. He was always looking to pass or always trying to drive it, and never really showed any interest in taking a jumper. Is that mental? Is it a serious mechanical thing? I know in talking to people around the program last summer that they're like, we need to get more loft in his jumper. It's too flat, and there were some things that with the release that they were really trying to kind of shot doctor, so to speak. We'll see if another offseason can work on it because he's got a lot of other things that you love. I mean, he's a good athlete, really good offensive rebounder, plays hard, and if you address the guard position better this time around, now you're messing with his positioning again, but have him guard 3s and 4s. I think that's more ideal than putting him on the perimeter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he can have a massive role next season and be a huge part. I mean, this is a guy that contributed a lot to this team this year, the 129 games. It's just the jump shot is always going to be a point of discussion for him because, as we saw against UConn, like the fact that Ty Rodgers is a guy where going into an Elite Eight game with a chance to go to the Final Four against the number one team in the country, everybody's shouting at their TV, get Ty Rodgers off the floor. We can't play him this game. Like, that's a precarious position for a starter that you're banking the program on to be in. Like, Ty's a useful player. I do think, like you mentioned, it'll help to not be pretending he's your point guard next year in all likelihood, but it's just, the jump shot is always going to be at the back of your mind because it's just going to limit his effectiveness and it's going to make Illinois easier to guard on the offensive end when he's on the floor. Unless, like you said, I think if he could get a 12-foot jumper, that would immensely help matters. Like, that would make a huge difference for him. And you would have to think that it's something he'll try to do over the next 2 years.
Still want to talk about Coleman Hawkins. I still want to talk about Marcus Damas briefly. We've kind of touched on this before as far as his waiver status, but we'll share what I know, at least on that front. And then some more portal options, the idea of AJ Storr, a big name, big man went into the portal just now. We'll hit on that, especially on the note of Dane Danger being gone now, so there is a big opening there for the Illini at the 5. But we do got to catch a break. That's a tease. We'll talk about all of that when we return. This is The Drive.
Get ready. Logic Community is having an open house, an epic open house, Monday, April 1st from 11 to 4. But there's more. From the 1st to the 5th, you can come in at Logic Community and have a free day of workspace free. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to join the Logic Community family. Mark your calendars, April 1st to the open house, and April 1st to the 5th, come work for a day for free. Logic Community, where minds meet and ideas ignite. See you there. Go to LogicLODGIC.work.
Bet like the pros with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circus Sports is now available in Illinois. Hi, I'm Derek Stevens. I've been a lifelong sports bettor and I'm the owner of Circus Sports. We're excited that the Circus Sports app is now ready for action. Experience big app bets with high betting limits, tight money line splits, and more. Now you can download, fund, and bet like a pro from anywhere in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Champaign Park District's Dance Arts presents Snow White, the Ballet, coming to the Virginia Theater Friday, April 5th at 7 and Saturday, April 6th at 2. Experience the beautiful story of true love as it unfolds on stage. Snow White, the Ballet, April 5th and 6th at the beautiful Virginia Theater. Get your $16 ticket now at 356-9063 or stop by the Virginia Theater, 203 West Park in Champaign.
Illini fans, this year we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium for the 2024 Fighting Illini football season. Season tickets for the 2024 football season are on sale now, and Illini fans who renew their season tickets by February 1st are eligible to win amazing prizes, memorabilia, and experiences. Secure your season tickets for Homecoming, Dad's Day, and a special rededication of Memorial Stadium on October 19th against Michigan. Visit fightingillini.com for more information.
You need the world's fastest mower to create your free time. With Dixie Chopper, what you got to look at is the warranties. With Dixie Chopper, all of their models, you're getting a 3-year unlimited hours bumper-to-bumper warranty. That's on the whole thing. Then your commercial units, you get up to a 3-year no-hour limit or 5-year 3,000-hour limit on the drivetrain. So that'd be your engine, your 2 gearboxes, transmissions, and all that.
Well, that sounds pretty solid.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Things break, and even if it's built well like a Dixie Chopper, you need to have that covered, and you get what you pay for, basically.
And I can go see Andy and get on one of those things, couldn't I?
Yes, you can. You can go see Andy at Dedicated Diesel at 1313 Triumph Drive in Urbana. You can reach him through Dedicated Equipment on Facebook or call him at 217-328-0562. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You as well. Tim Onstadt, Gale Frericks Trucking, Dedicated Diesel, and Championship Barbecueologist.
A tradition of excellence over 150 years in the making. At Busey Bank, we're committed to building relationships that span generations. Wherever your journey in life leads you, we are with you along the way, creating a legacy for you and your family. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth, since 1868, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
By now, you've all heard the expression, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 for PDR Automotive. They are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR. But who are they? They, the PDR staff, understand that a name is only as good as the people that represent it. The PDR staff has more than 335 years of combined automotive experience, several employees now on staff for more than 25 years. PDR, more than just a name. Family owned and operated, now celebrating over 50 years in business.
Pia's is open. Catch all of your favorite MLB games on their big screens. Root on your favorite team wearing your Cubby Blue or your Cardinal Red. 1609 West Springfield in Champaign. Pia's offers not only a huge outdoor seating area, but indoor seating as well. Enjoy daily specials. It's the home of the Slugger Burger with buckets of beer and wings. Experience food, drinks, and fun at one of Champaign's best sports bars near Springfield and Madison, Champaign. Open 7 days a week. It's Pia's. Urbana Park District needs you this summer. Crystal Lake Family Aquatic Center is now open, and a few more lifeguards are needed. No experience? No problem. Aquatic staff will train you and get you certified. This is a great job for those 15 years of age or older, and adults looking for a side gig or seasonal job. To apply, go to urbanaparks.org and fill out an application. If you have questions, call the Park District, 217-367-1544. Urbana Park District, you belong here. urbanaparks.org.
Hey, let me tell you about Busey and spring break travel. You're going to want to have access to your bank account, and MoneyPass is a great thing with Busey's mobile app. 2 ways. Busey makes your banking hassle-free with 37,000 ATMs nationwide, including 3,400 in Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Florida. There's no need to sign up, no need to participate. Take advantage of the savings and locate a MoneyPass ATM near you. Download the Busey mobile app as well. View balances, transfer funds, pay your bills, pay another person, deposit checks directly from your mobile device as well. Other online banking tools, there's Busey's eBank, there's eStatements, and Busey's Bill Pay that you're going to want to check out. No more checks to write or postage to buy. Convenience, time saving, safe, and secure. From surcharge-free ATMs to the Busey mobile app and beyond, Busey keeps you connected to your accounts from coast to coast. Visit Busey.com. Busey, member FDIC. Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. I like the work from home drop because I can actually work from home now. No longer on the road. I know Illinois fans wish, Piper, wish you're going to Phoenix. I know. Me too. Kind of. All right. Anyways,
let's be honest. No beat reporter covering a team in the East region should have even pulled up Phoenix.
No flights. No.
With UConn sitting in the region.
Don't look at Airbnb. You're right. Yeah, that's fair. And Illinois got to the doorstep there and then just met Goliath, the team that is currently like minus 200, minus 210 to win the title. Can't even make money trying to bet them at this point. So
it is unfortunate though, and I get it. It's the tournament and you've got to play good teams, but if Illinois played Alabama or Clemson with a chance to go to the Final Four, if they played Duke or NC State with a chance to go to the Final Four, heck, if they played Tennessee, Purdue probably would have been tough, but almost anyone else, I think the way Illinois had been playing, I think they would have had a heck of a chance to get to Phoenix.
It's true. I do think Illinois, of course, the matchup going against Klingon was just different. Of course, you'd face that with going against Edey again, but maybe there just the familiarity there would have allowed them to be a little bit more comfortable and confident.
I'll say, I think if Illinois had met Purdue, they also probably fall short. Yeah. Probably don't get blown out by 25. But
I agree. Yeah.
That would be the other one that probably would have halted them.
It just felt like a good part, I think UConn's a machine. A good part of that second half, just going from you're on the cusp of getting blown out to this game's over with 12 minutes left, was a lot of self-inflicted stuff with Illinois.
Yep.
Unfortunately. And just didn't have it. They didn't have it. They didn't have the best game plan, and they ran into an offensive machine.
And listen,
and defensive machine.
Brad Underwood did a phenomenal job this year, and I absolutely love Brad Underwood. But my man, I don't know if you got a chance to see because you were there, but his interview.
I heard about it.
His interview, my dad and I were watching the game together, and we just had a look of disgust on our face after they wrapped that interview with him up, where he goes, they asked a question, I think it was Andy Katz was the one.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, how do you, Klingon's really making an impact early, how are you going to adjust? And he goes, Brad says, we're going to keep going right at him. If he blocks 100, he blocks 100. Famous last words from Brad Underwood, because he darn near blocked 100 by the end of the game. So that, to me, was just really perplexing, but doesn't take away from anything else that he's done with this program or with this season, building an unbelievable offense and a 29-win team. But just frustrating because there's no question that Illinois could have been more competitive had they been better prepared and had a better game plan, in my opinion.
No doubt. Coleman Hawkins had an issue battling Klingon as far as when UConn was at the offensive end. Coleman Hawkins, after the game, said that's probably his last go in an Illini uniform. I pull up the quote. We wrote an article on that on the Illini Inquirer. He said, I think that this was my last year in an Illinois uniform. I think that time comes where every good thing must come to an end. I feel like I put a lot into this program. It's not against anybody. I'm a senior, obviously, so I have options. But me personally, I feel like I want to really start developing and getting a look at and getting a lot better at basketball. I feel like I've got to take the next step to get there. He then goes on to say, and really trying to develop my game and getting better, I feel like that next step is at the next level. So, of course, trying to go to the NBA. I think projected-wise, I don't have the latest mocks pulled up, but late second round pick probably is the most common thing that I've seen. We've talked about Coleman's career. I'm not trying to resurface that, but just the idea that he's not going to take advantage of the COVID year, which I always thought was a long shot anyway, at least for Illinois standpoint. Do you think that he would for another team? I imagine my gauge on it just seems like he's done his thing at Illinois. He's ready to move on. He, of course, wants to play in the NBA, wants to make that step to the next level. And I think as long as he gets a feel that he'll have a decent chance to get drafted, that's the direction he's going to go. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's time for him. He's done everything he could possibly do for Illinois. Led him to an Elite Eight now. He's spent 4 years here. And, we've mentioned it plenty of times on the show, just a total program guy that has done it the old-fashioned way where he didn't have a big role and his role just kept growing. He kept getting better every single season, and now he's an all-conference guy on a really good team and will forever be loved by this fan base. And I think it's just time for him. I don't think he can gain much from a fifth year. He's one of those that, is he going to get drafted highly? Probably not, but I think he will have every opportunity with his skill set and the way he improved and the way he shot the three this year. I think he's going to get every opportunity to be, in summer league with a team and have a chance to be on at least like a two-way contract in the NBA. And you're hurting yourself by coming back to college in general, because this is as weak a draft class as you'll find.
It's true.
Really, really weak class. Best opportunity he'll have to get drafted. You come back, and we mention it with every player. Older players are not liked by the NBA, so getting a year older is not going to help him. And what is he really going to showcase that he hasn't? I mean, he improved his three-point percentage to 38% this year, and that was the big thing that he needed to focus on. And, could he maybe play his natural position of 4 and look a little better defensively and maybe not be exploited as hard as he was? Sure, but these NBA scouts do this for a living. They see through that. They've seen there's plenty of tape of him playing the 4. They realize what the problem was defensively for Illinois this year, that it wasn't him. It was scheme-based. And so I don't know if there's really much he can gain from coming back. It's one of those where it's time for him, and I think the wise decision for him would be to finally move on. And it's been an unbelievable 4 years that I think you're messing with it if you're trying to come back and squeeze a fifth out of it, and it would hurt his future.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. And he did answer a lot of the questions about his game as far as the three-point shooting, like you mentioned, just overall consistency. Like, I felt it was pretty steady for him to be in double figures over a large stretch. I lost track of the stat of how it ended up playing out, but I would guess that he was probably a double-figure scorer in 20 of Illinois' last 25 games, and rebounding was decent. Yes, defensively, I think it was a lot more him playing out of position, yes, as a 5, is out of necessity for Illinois to play the way they wanted to offensively. And I don't think you worry about how Coleman was in drop coverage or how he was in one-on-one post-ups. Like, he's going to be probably a 4 at the next level, how that works out. And like you mentioned, scouts and teams evaluating that can fire up what he did against Keegan Murray in that Iowa game a few years ago, and or just getting switched on a Tyson Walker or Boo Buie earlier in this season. So I know that Dan says no freaking way Hawkins is an NBA player. I mean, even if you're right, I don't know that another year changes that reality. Now, he fits the modern game. He fits the spacing game. He fits the ability to, as a big guy, have skill to him, can do something off the bounce, can pass it some, can guard in space. I do think he's going to get his shot at the NBA. I do think even if he doesn't get drafted, he'd be signed to a two-way contract or signed to a training camp, a summer league. He's going to be on a summer league team. He'd been in a training camp. He'd have a shot. At the very worst, he'd be in the G League with a affiliation of an NBA franchise. So I fully expected this to be Coleman's last year coming in at every point during this season, and for him to say that now. I know that Kofi ended up saying he was done and then ended up coming back because the NIL. And could Illinois fork over $500,000 $600K to Coleman to say come back, we'll pay you more than a two-way. They could. I don't know that they will. Would you do that if you were Illinois? Would you offer him that big of a bag to try to come back?
Probably, knowing how important he is. And I think you could put him in a better position even next year if you pair him with whether it's just Morez Johnson coming in and Hansberry, or you go get a transfer big that fits him. Like I think he could be a stud next year. But I would understand from Illinois' perspective if they'd be apprehensive to do that, because let's be honest, Coleman Hawkins isn't like an all-conference first-team guy. Like that.
Sure.
The guys you're normally saying, let's get to $500,000 to bring back, are probably a guy you think can compete for Conference Player of the Year or be like a bona fide all-conference guy. And while I think Coleman Hawkins does a lot for a team that doesn't necessarily show up in the overall numbers, as we've talked about many times, I would understand being a little apprehensive about that and maybe just wanting to kind of move this core on and try to bring in a new roster. So I don't know. And then
I think Coleman's probably ready to move on too.
I think so. And then I guess the only other question that would beg is, let's say Coleman doesn't get the feedback he wants, or if certain scouts tell him, like, actually, you know what, one more year in college, if you do this, this, and this could actually benefit you, and Illinois maybe doesn't fork up a huge amount of money, then guess what? There's one more option for a guy. So I don't know. Ultimately, I think he'll enter the draft.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like you just have to mention it with everybody.
No, you do. No, I get it. And it was something that he, I don't know that he fully considered, but in talking to some people around him, there was the idea of, hey, this is an option on the table while he was weighing his options last offseason as well. It wouldn't be crazy. Like, we could go there. Like, if he wanted to, what if he teams up with – is Sky Clark committed to UCLA? Apparently that's where he's going.
I didn't see that confirmed anywhere, but
UCLA could play at his dad's alma mater of San Diego State, go to Kansas and be the 4-man to Hunter Dickinson's 5-man. Wouldn't that be something?
Can we get Hunter out of college, though? Like, come on, man. Let's go.
Speaking of getting out of college, Marcus Domask with a eligibility waiver. It sounds like that's in the works and has been, that they're in pursuit of that. That Marcus has interest in coming back to Illinois. We've touched on this before, that during the COVID year, he had an injury-shortened season. Kyle has hit on it, though, with Cam Spencer kind of having a very similar case, a previous denial by the NCAA. I think it's an open and shut for NCAA to say, yes, look, you played 4.5 years. You got your 5th year here. This past year, Illinois was your COVID year. We're not going to grant you another one. I've been vocal. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of telling you why people don't need to play 5.5 years, why we don't need college basketball full of 25-year-olds. And I would love to watch Marcus again. He's a phenomenal player. He's awesome to cover. He'd be great for Illinois. It makes total sense why Illinois would try to explore it, why Marcus, from a financial standpoint, like Marcus Domask could be a guy that Illinois would maybe be willing to give close to $500,000 to come back. But more than likely, and even talking to people around the program, they're not holding their breath on this.
I haven't given it any thought, because
I'm with you.
I think the NCAA has already shown that they will not grant waivers for COVID year things. I think there's already been cases, whether it's Cam Spencer or even other guys that maybe haven't been as public about it, that anything that happened during that COVID year, you're already getting that year back. So
Correct.
We're not going to then give you a 6th year to make up for that. You already used that free year.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate for guys that, hey, if you got hurt the year after and now you're playing 6 years, but that's just the precedent they've set.
And I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the right. You could even have the argument in hindsight, should everybody have gotten a free COVID year? But then would Illinois have gotten to the Elite Eight? So, of course, yes, absolutely they should have, and I'm glad they did. All right. Let's catch a break. Sorry, me and Kyle are back on the floor together for the first time in a while. That was my bad. Let's catch a break, and then we will hit on some other targets out there. I will tell you the big man that just entered the portal. Could Illinois be involved? Will he be heading to another Big Ten school? It's very possible. Who are some other targets, and just initial thoughts for the Illini as we close out the show. If you want to weigh in, you can. 217-359-2255 on the U of I Atlantic Link text line. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
I'm Justin Ike, co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground.
So, Justin, tell me what you see as typical when it comes to sewer repair. Give me a scenario.
Your sewer's backed up and somebody comes along and says, you need this repair for X amount of dollars. Here's my price. And you don't think to go looking for another company or a second opinion because you don't feel like you have time.
So is it possible that you might get charged a little more because it's kind of a desperate moment? Do some companies do that?
Oh, absolutely they will. They know you're in a pinch. Typically, if you call us, me or Will can be out there within an hour to look at that problem for you. Whether you call me first or you call me second, make sure you give me a call.
Anything else, Justin?
You can always trust Fred's.
Great to know. Thank you. That's Justin Ike, the co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground. If you want more information about this great 45-year family-owned company, just go to fredscu.com. That's fredscu.com.
Local, personal, trusted. Hi, this is Ata Durakan with First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana, and we've been serving Champaign County since 1908. Our institution is safe, strong, and stable. We operate on a foundation of responsible and sound practices, and you can rest easy knowing we're your bank. Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial Inc., fast, friendly, and local, with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try, and we think you'll love it here. First Federal Savings Bank, 356bank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS 435120.
Welcome to Dick Van Dyke Appliance World.
Hi, I'm looking for a refrigerator.
When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Oh, yeah, well, I just need a refrigerator. Don't need the whole store.
But you get it, the whole store.
My kitchen is only about this big.
You get me.
Hello.
All those delivery, installation, and service technicians in back.
Wow, all those people?
The Dick Van Dyke 5-10-year protection plan, which means in the unlikely event something goes wrong in the first 5 years, your repair cost is nothing.
Nothing?
10 years parts coverage on the major components.
Looks like I'm getting more than a refrigerator today. How much does this whole store cost?
Nothing. Come on. For real. We guarantee to beat any competitor's deal, all that other stuff we talked about, like our service tax.
And your 5-10-year protection plan?
All included.
I'm Dennis Freakin, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. And when we say you get the whole store, we mean the whole store. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Your lawn is an important investment. Let Spring Green take care of that lawn. Your local, family-owned and operated Spring Green has been committed to beautifying your neighborhood through quality, service, and professionalism. Spring Green's full program customers are backed by their guarantee of satisfaction. Smart Money Magazine reports that consumers value a home with a well-maintained lawn and landscape up to 11.3% higher than the base price. Why don't you call Spring Green today, 359-2111, or visit them at spring-green.com. He's part of the law firm football star Keith Randolph on why he chose to live at Pacifica on Green.
One, it's close to everything. They have the best landlord in Champaign. Well, she's like the mother of the apartment building. And it's really nice. It's brand new, nicely furnished. Everything's just nice. At least check it out. The rents are very reasonable. There's a lot of additions into it. There's a game room, coffee room, yoga room. It's everything you want.
Visit PacificaOnGreen.com.
Have you ever looked at a junk truck and said, man, that truck is pretty? Two men in a junk truck trucks are pretty. They're pretty big, so they can handle large jobs. They're pretty reliable. Two Men in a Truck has been recognized as a trusted leader in the moving industry for over 35 years. Now we are proud to offer that same reliability to junk removal, and they're pretty fast. When you're ready to let some things go and that you don't need, you don't want to wait 3 weeks. You want it gone now. Go to twomeninAjunkTruck.com and make room for what matters most.
And now, Kelsey Briggs, owner of Salon 105 in Mahomet.
We have a luxury destination salon located out here in Central Illinois, and we have stylists here for everybody and any need. We have a very wide range of stylists that can cover any needs. There is somebody that can provide any services from a perm to a balayage to extensions and everything in between. Every stylist that works here is certified in Bellohaven hand-tied extensions, and we do a lot of education. We bring in high-level educators from all over the world and invite local salons to come out here and learn. So not only do we welcome clients here, but we also welcome other stylists or salons in the area to come and learn.
To book your appointment at one of the premier salons in Central Illinois, go to salon-105.com. That's salon-105.com.
Thank you for choosing 2 Men in a Truck. How may I help you?
Hey, we're moving, and I have a strange situation here. We need to be out of our house by 10 a.m., but our closing on the new house isn't until 1 p.m. Is that something you guys do?
That's not strange at all. 2 Men in a Truck has completed over 9 million moves. We have a solution for that.
Not sure how your move is going to work? Go to 2meninatruck.com to start your free estimate. 2meninatruck.com.
Here's what new customers are saying about Interstate Batteries.
It's nice to see capable and helpful associates. They did a top-notch job.
They were easy to talk to and explained everything.
Service was prompt and I was a walk-in. Total service time was only like 20 minutes. I highly recommend Interstate Batteries.
Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. How much is dependable worth? Experience them for the first time at 2504 North Mattis. Way out there, but worth the drive. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit interstatebatteries.com.
All right, let's go rapid fire here. Finishing up on the drive here. Plenty of time as we go along to talk about portal guys. It's going to be a long offseason, fellas. Especially, I would imagine someone like, let's start here, AJ Storr, declared from the draft, probably going to go through the process. If you think back to last offseason, I should say, even though there is no such thing as an offseason. Ray J. Dennis, I think committed late May, thereabouts.
Can we not have another situation like that?
Hell yeah, that I would like.
Let's get the roster set by like May 10th.
I would like to not cover a recruitment that was like that, and just could be a long time for some of these guys that will go through that side of things and then make their decision. While the portal window, you have to be in the portal by what is it?
May 1st?
May 1st, I believe, but that doesn't mean you have to make a decision by then. You just have to be in the portal.
There's going to be so many NBA guys that don't even start going into decision mode till June. I don't know when the draft withdrawal date is, but that's got to be like late May or something.
Right. Usually at least the middle of May. I have to pull up the dates exactly. So let's do this. Let's run through a couple of these. I will share the name of the big man. It is Vlad Golden, by the way. FAU, talented player. Now, is he just going to follow Dusty May to Michigan? Potentially. There's a lot of speculation as far as Golden, John L. Davis, with Elijah Martin. Now, I don't know that all three are just going to be automatic check mark to go to Michigan, but
real quick, May 29th is the withdrawal date for the NBA draft this year.
Okay. Yeah, it could be late decisions on some of these, potentially. Not to say that even if they were, that some of the leans or deals or what have you aren't already pretty well figured out. What do you think about Vlad Golden? Should Illinois make a run there with Dane being gone? Should we just expect him to go to Michigan? What do you think about that one?
I think we should expect him to go to Michigan.
I agree with that, yeah.
I feel like that one's one of those that is probably going to be pretty clear. Now, I think with him, I would be curious if there does become like an NIL bidding war, because he's a beast. Especially defensively, he's like a Klingon type of defensive impact. I mean, you even got a taste of it. Really, I know, probably hard to remember because Illinois dominated offensively in MSG, but his on-off numbers in that game, he got in foul trouble, only played like 16 minutes or something, but he was like a +8 or something on the court in Illinois. He was like a -15 or whatever the plus-minus numbers were when he was on-off. But his defensive impact, his rim protection is fantastic. And then he's got some offensive game too, averaged 15.5 points and good rebounder. I mean, he's an impactful center for a high-major contending team. But I would imagine Dusty May has probably made like 6 calls to him already. So it's going to be a tough one.
We'll see what that Michigan NIL bag ultimately looks like.
What about admissions there, too? Can he get all his FAU guys in?
There's admissions. I wonder what year was Golden in school, because their big issue was the credits.
Guys that hadn't graduated yet.
Yeah, right.
He might be a grad.
Okay.
I'll check.
Golden, I always forget that he originally was at Texas Tech, same time as Terrence Shannon, right?
Yes.
Then goes to FAU. Good player.
Yeah, so he'll be a fifth-year guy, but
okay.
I don't know because he has been at 2 schools if he necessarily will have graduated yet or
Sure.
not. So I don't know.
Got time to hit more players as we go along in the week, but I mentioned him, AJ Storr. I think it makes a ton of sense for Illinois. They're going to have a lot of money to be able to throw at him. Previously committed to the Illini, although I know that the relationship to Chin Coleman was a big part of that, but just to step into the shoes of Terrence Shannon from a role standpoint,